So the Healthy Harvest Network started because, particularly during the harvest season, so from July through end of October, various people were getting tons of fresh produce, and then they couldn't distribute it within the amount of time they were open. So some places are open 5 days a week, many are only open 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And what was happening is people were getting overwhelmed with produce, and then it was going to go bad. So we were having these phone calls that Sandy would call me and say, Lisa, oh my gosh, I have a ton of corn or green beans or cucumbers, and there's no way that I can get rid of them before they go bad. Mm-hmm. So what she would say, do you have a volunteer to come? I would sometimes say yes, but most of the time I would say no, there's nobody to come and pick it up. So we were all kind of scrambling, and then food was going to waste. We were frustrated sometimes with what was available at the food bank. We thought maybe if we had more voices talking together, we might have a little more power, a little more persuasion with the food bank. And so we started to meet after the Windham Region Hunger Council meetings, and just talking through things, sharing resources, and then we decided that maybe we should go for a grant and sort of formalize this, get a van that we could actually transport the food rather than relying on our cars and somebody having a Jeep and filling it up with produce in the back and transporting it. So that's what we did. And then the team came together, the 7 food pantries, and decided to call themselves the Healthy Harvest Network, because we really wanted to focus on produce that, again, I mean, the food bank does distribute produce, but there's all this other smaller sources of produce that the food bank doesn't make sense for them to go and pick it up. It's not enough to make it worthwhile to send a refrigerated truck and an employee and all of that. And so we started making these other connections with farmers and wholesalers and farmers markets and just wherever this extra food was. And so that's how it all started. So one of the big questions that comes out is, why do food shelves need to be? And I'm going to let other people talk about that.
Food stamps aren't adequate.
Right? Yeah, our clientele definitely increases toward the end of the month because food stamps have run out.
Yeah.
Food prices have risen also quite significantly over the last few years.
And in rural areas, you might have a local store, but you're not going to get the prices that you'd get if you went into Brattleboro or a large grocery store.
Mm-hmm. You do have a lot more options if you're in Brattleboro, but even so, you still need transportation if you're going to buy a lot of groceries, right? Mm-hmm. Most people can't walk.
So many people that come to our food shelf have jobs, and they still can't stretch their budget to pay their rent or their mortgage and their purchase their food. So I think the demographics maybe are changing.
We see a lot of people that are disabled, and so they're living on really, really low incomes, like under $1,000 a month. But we do also see people that work, and usually it's people with children that are working, because when you have children, obviously you need a lot more food, especially if they're older children. And it varies too, because people's hours get cut, and then there's a lot of seasonal work, right? Mm-hmm. So you may have somebody that's has a lot of hours during certain times of the year, and then all of a sudden their hours are cut, and there's no way to pay all of those bills. Nancy, you mentioned about volunteers, and Hannah's the volunteer coordinator, but I think maybe we should, because the volunteer help is also, the food pantries couldn't operate.
No.
It would not happen, because there's a lot of work in collecting that food and sorting the food and then helping people in the food pantry and just all unloading trucks. And so, I mean, you have a pretty good handle on how many hours of volunteer labor.
Yeah, what we have as a figure is 1,473 volunteer hours, but people don't always write down their hours because we have a log to keep them in, but people don't always do that. So I would probably double that and say it's more like 2,500 hours a year behind all those things at least.
It's a full-time job, like
It's-
Hannah said.
I know a lot of volunteers are seniors, and it gets harder for them. I mean, we have folks well into their 80s that are staffing our food shelf days, and so then obviously they would need another volunteer to help with actually, stocking and the physical aspects. But definitely see the population aging, and it seems harder to get younger folks.
Recruiting younger folks would be wonderful, and I don't know how we do that because, young working families with they can't do it. I guess young means you're in your 60s.
So it's funny you said that 60-year-old volunteers would be young, because Carolyn Pishak, who runs Bridget's Kitchen, has also said this exact same thing to me. She said, we don't need really young people, although we'd love to have them, but we recognize that they also have children and lives and school and all that sort of thing. She said, just get us some 50, 60-year-olds to help out, because a lot of the people there are in their 70s, some approaching 80, and they love what they do, and they've been doing it a long time, but it's not sustainable. And I think Hannah said it so well, is that we're all running these organizations that are necessary for people to have food, but it's kind of precarious feeling sometimes, and sometimes we feel like, yes, we have what we need, and feel really, as Hannah said, we feel blessed that we're able to do this, and we have plenty of food, and we have plenty of volunteers, and plenty of money that's coming in to buy what else we need that we're not getting donated. But then what do we know 6 months down the road? Is that going to be where we are? Or are we going to be scrambling to try to get enough food to feed people, which doesn't feel like a very good place to be?
If you were the food shelf czar of the world, and you had a magic wand, what would be that one thing that would make the food shelf life easier?
I would love our food shelf to have a designated space, have our own space.
Yeah.
Right now we're providing sporadic dinner meals. The high school's coming in. So I designated our own space and a kitchen. That would be my dream.
Yeah.
Kitchen. But they all know I want a kitchen. But I'd like to develop some gardening space. We have 4 acres of land, so we could develop some easy to grow garden space. But that's another. It's like I don't have enough energy and hours, and who might take that on? And
what people have to realize is that that's why we need the volunteers, because this donated food is usually coming in large quantities at a time. A food drive, a Project Feed the Thousands, Top the Truck, all the different things that people are doing. And it takes a lot of labor to get that food in the building and then put it on the shelves. And then it doesn't just go out by itself. There has to be organization, and it's just like running a business. It's just
absolutely.
It's like running
I'm
a
realizing
business.
this.
Yes, right.
More involved.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's like running a small business. It is running a small business.
It is.
I have one more thought just about what we provide is around health, when you're talking about health, and thinking about stress as a component of health, and how food insecurity is stressful.
of course,
And so we are there to provide some food security to alleviate that element of stress in someone's life. To know that you can get food here for free. Right. These are open hours. We're consistently open. Huntington Shelf never closes for weather, for snowstorms or holidays or anything. We're always open twice a week. So just to be there, to know that we're there.
Yeah.
Something that we also are doing.
Yeah.
and I think we've developed an atmosphere of cordiality, And it's a social event for some of the folks to come in. I mean, it is. They get. I tend to be the one who will sit and visit with them. Now that I'm signing people in, I get to chat with everybody
So it's a social connection.
it's a social
for people, too.
connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Hannah makes a really good point, because not knowing where you're going to have food for yourself is really stressful, but not knowing where you're going to have food for your children is even worse. If you could just think about what that would be like, and to know that there is a place where you can go, and you know that you're going to be able to get good food and take it home, and you're going to be able to make a good meal, it just relieves a lot of anxiety for people. And that is about health.
This place has actually been kind of an oasis for a lot of people that I know, to come and get some food, get something to drink, something to take them through, get them throughout the day till supper in the evening. Just kind of fell right in, and this place, the people here have kind of become family to me in a way. It's kind of a good place. I do volunteer here also, so there's a lot of good things that happen here. I am honored to be a part of this organization. This is a great place with very special people that perform a service that a lot of people still don't know about. And when you mention it to them, their eyes light up, because they can literally come here, and it's almost like going to a grocery store for them. When they're strapped for cash or their food stamps have run out or what have you, they can come here and get basic, essential things. And to me, I think this place is a godsend for a lot of the community.
I come here to eat. I'm homeless. Without this, I wouldn't have anything to eat. These people take care of me. I'm a vegetarian. And I don't eat most things. And so they look out for me.
I've been to other places in other states where this would be like a haven, oh my God, they have food, not like 3 candy bars and a bag, half a bag of chips on the shelf, And I've seen it where it's been really, really bad. Because if you look at how much food stamps cover, it doesn't cover. I mean, you can only eat so many ramen noodles till you're blue in the face.
When you're on a limited income, you don't qualify for anything. Kind of sucks.
Yeah. Do you have transportation?
No.
Yeah, so how do you do that? Because that's a major issue around
I
here.
walk
Wow.
and have a cart.
Wow, so you have to push a cart.
Yes, it works.
Super difficult though.
Especially living on the hill, yes.
Yeah.
I know families that got 4 or 5 kids, and if they come through in the beginning of the month, by the end of the month they have nothing in their house.
So yeah, I think the community is very supportive. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and perhaps judgment, and I totally get that about why can't people just work. I think there are a lot of different answers to that, but some people simply are unable, physically, mentally able to get a job and keep it, and if they did, it might be $10 or $12 an hour, which we all know is not going to keep you in an apartment in Brattleboro. And we find that, the majority of people come in here, they're not trying to beat the system. They really need the food, so they're grateful. When you see somebody cry when you give them a birthday cake because their kid might not have gotten one otherwise, you know that it's real. I always think this is such a great job in a way for an old hippie giving away food.